morning, Manna Church. Ben Goodman here again, and the latest installment on our series of You Shall Receive Power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and you will be my witness. In Acts chapter 9, there's a very interesting story. It involves two people. There's a man named Ananias and a guy named Saul who became Paul. Saul, who became Paul, was a very religious man, and he didn't understand Christianity. He saw Christianity as a threat. And so what he did in the name of God, he went around hunting and hurting Christians because they were threats. So while he was doing that, in another city, there was this guy named Ananias. Ananias was just a disciple. He had a good reputation. He was just a Christ follower. Anyway, while Saul was doing all his nasty things, God met him, just knocked him off his horse and just encountered him. And Saul, he was frightened and he was even blinded. He's sort of paralyzed. He was in the middle of doing things in the name of God, and then God meets him and says, "No, that's not for me." So, while Saul is just sitting there being undone, God tells Ananias, "There's this man named Saul. This is where he is. This is what he's doing. I want you to go minister to him." And Ananias goes, "Lord, I know you know everything, but this guy hates, hunts, and hurts Christians, and I'm one of them. He's got a history. You want me to go minister to him? This could hurt." And Jesus said, "I want you to go, because this guy, once I get to own him, this guy is going to be an incredible tool. He'll speak to kings. He'll turn the world upside down. He'll do great things." So with no promise of safety or even success, Ananias goes to Saul's house to minister to Saul, who's blind and scared. Ananias sees Saul, lays hands on him, calls him a brother, brings healing to his eyes, starts ministering prophetically to him about here's what God has in mind for you. And then he lays hands on him and he fills him with the Holy Spirit. Why? I want you to imagine if you had a Ferrari. Ferrari's a beautiful car. It's a fast car. Imagine you pull it out of your driveway, but you got no gas in it. You got no gas in it. But it's a beautiful day, a little windy. You get dressed up in your gloves, your little scarf, your little cool little hat, and you get in your car that has got no gas, but it's got a battery. You turn on the music, right? And with the wind going, your scarf goes back. And then what you do is you pretend you're driving. And you start going boom, 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 boom. You go through all the gears. And people would drive by and go, "Well, he looks good. He ain't going anywhere, but he sure looks good." You only go somewhere when you got the fuel, when you have the power to drive that thing. Now, Saul was called to a particular ministry or destiny that only he could fulfill, and only the power of God could lead him and guide him and equip him. And Saul is not an exception. When we are filled with the Holy Spirit, we actually have the power to live out the Christian life. When we're filled with the Holy Spirit, we actually have the power to do the things that we know we can't do. When we're filled with the Holy Spirit, we have power to experience more of God's calling on our life. So keep being filled.